The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Steve Jobs. Welcome to the Guyana Dialogue. I'm your host, Shamisa Ali. Our topic tonight is thoughts on poverty, unemployment, and the 2025 elections. The Guyana Dialogue is being sponsored by a coordinating council of Guyanese based in the US, UK, Canada, the Caribbean, and Guyana. Funding support is by well-known philanthropist Dave Narayan from Dave West Indian Imports. Please welcome my moderator for tonight, Dr. Tara Singh.
Thank you very much, Shamisa, and welcome to our viewers.
Welcome, Dr. Tara. Our panelists tonight are Professor Muniram Budu and Dr. Ganga Ramdas.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening. Known to many as a pioneer in many areas within the Guyanese industry, Mr. Komal Singh's journey began from humble beginnings in the countryside. Through hard work and dedication, he worked his way up the ladder from a farmer to one of the most respected business executives, representing Guyana on the international front and supporting his country in every way possible. Our guest tonight is the CEO of Gaico Construction and former chair of the private sector. Please welcome Mr. Komal Singh.
Good
Good
evening.
evening and
Thank you very
welcome,
much.
everyone. Dr. Tara, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Shamisa, and welcome, Mr. Komal Singh. Welcome, Dr. Ganga. And I endorse what you said. Mr. Komal Singh is a distinguished son of Guyana who has done extremely well. He's a role model for most people if you should follow his life. And we are very pleased to have him here. He's exceptionally busy. And he was just the outgoing, I believe he served 2 terms as chair of the Private Sector Commission. And before we go into the subject matter, Mr. Singh, can you please give us a brief review of your work at the PSC, what you've achieved during those 2 terms, just briefly, so people can have an insight that you're more than a businessman. You're a manager. You help to manage other organizations, and you're the spokesperson for a group of very powerful and substantial companies in Guyana. So please proceed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tara. The private sector, every time we change and we have a new chairman, the new chair pretty much picks up from where the last chair left off and continue to grow, engage the private sector in a way that is going to benefit the entire country and the private sector at large. My last 2 terms, over my last 2 terms, has been an incredibly busy term, given what is happening currently in Guyana in the industry and in the economy. As a result of that, I was charged with many mandates to satisfy the needs and some of the issues that faces the private sector, both locally and regionally. As a result of that, we were able to put together a very competent subcommittees that represent various sectors: trade and investment, agriculture, finance, energy, etc. Each one of those subcommittee works in their respective area to address cross-cutting issues that was affecting the private sector locally and regionally. And I'll just emphasize on a few of the areas that we have worked on. The local content legislation that was passed some 2 years ago. Obviously, when that legislation was put in place, we have actually set maybe about 40 key areas that we have charged our Guyanese business community to work towards achieving, so we can increase those percentage that we have set there in that schedule. One of the things we had to do over the last 2 years was to continuously monitor and review how our private sector was growing in those various areas. And at the end of those 2 years, we were able to do about 2 or 3 engagement with businesses across Guyana to understand the level of capacity that was built over the last 2 years. As a result of that, we were able to put together a proposed revised schedule to government so that they can review that with a view to see how we can engage and have more local companies participate in the oil and gas sector to provide goods and services. That document was presented to His Excellency, and I know for sure that they're reviewing that. So that was one of the notable achievements of my last 2 years. Outside of that, also, we were able to work with IDB. We recognize the small businesses and medium business in Guyana were suffering from access to funds. And when we really review that, one of the challenge they were having is putting together proper business proposal to present themselves to the bank. Some people were able to do it by seeking out professionals to help them. Some were not able to go to professionals because they don't have that kind of finance to back it up. We were able to work with the IDB in Guyana, and the IDB was able to give the private sector a loan, a grant, sorry, to help support the business desk at the Private Sector Commission. So in March of this year, we launched that help desk at the Private Sector Commission. So any small businesses or new person who's now looking to get into business can now go to that help desk at the Private Sector Commission and get some guidance on how they can put business proposal together and get business advice to help develop themselves if they want to become a businessman or a businesswoman in Guyana. So that help desk is one that is set there right now for the public to use. It's free of cost. Another notable achievement that we had at the Private Sector Commission, smuggling in Guyana on some of the areas were affecting some of these big businesses in a very big way. As a result of that, we were able to engage those businesses that were affected by smuggling, and we were able to put together an illicit trade desk at the private sector. The purpose of that desk is basically to gather information from our members and non-members who are suffering from smuggling. And those information, we work and share those information with the government agencies that are responsible, and they work towards trying to mitigate and get rid of those smuggling so that our businesses can thrive without having to worry about smuggling products being competing into the market with them. That so far we have seen some success with that, but it's a work in progress. And that desk is currently up and running at the private sector also. I'll just name three of the main things that we have actually worked on outside of working closely to our businesses over the years to address some of the key issues that were affecting some of the partnerships that we have also been trying to create it between local companies and foreign companies. And one of the bill that government actually introduced that significantly helped these new partnerships also was the arbitration bill. You would remember that the arbitration bill that we had was a very old, outdated bill. And when we tried to form partnership with foreign companies, they had not wanted to sign up as Guyana as the location in the event they have any dispute. So most of the contracts that we have signed prior to that arbitration bill being passed locally, we had to use New York, UK, or any part of the world, but not Guyana. Now, countries can now comfortably sign and use Guyana as a country where they can do arbitration because the law now meets international standard. That was a big achievement from government and work with private sector to bring that on board. And we were proud that government was able to put that together because many foreign investors were having big concern where that is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. I, in the preparation of annual budget, do the government consult the private sector commission? Do you make submission to the government?
Historically and currently and going forward into the future, the private sector always work with our business community, and we do make proposal and suggestion to the government on areas where they can address issues like taxation, both that affects individual and businesses across the country. I'm happy to say that we have seen a lot of success in the past where many of the recommendations that we have made, governments have actually adopted it either in the format that we give them or they add in some cases to it and make it even better.
Mhm. All right, thank you. It's interesting. I before I have a final. Recently there has been a report in the press in Guyana where the people from OGGN the people who, the OG and the gas people, wrote a letter saying that why you don't release 300 million or 30 million Guyana dollars, which is equivalent to 144,000 US, to the victim family, the victim's family of the Madia fire. Do you recall anything like that? It was in yesterday's paper.
Well, look,
They accuse the private, they accuse the private sector of holding this money and not releasing to the people.
I'll just say briefly on this matter. Let me just clarify some stuff. The money that was donated to support or to help when that incident occurred was money donated by the members of the Private Sector Commission and not the public. All right, it's a distinct difference. The members of the Private Sector Commission. Over the last 2 years, we have deliberated on how we should address that issue and spend that money wisely to make sure that not just individual but the community benefited from it. The last two council meetings prior to my departure, we are actually very close on making a decision because there was a number of proposals that came onto the table by our members. Because this was a members' donation, not the public, the members. So we've got quite a bit of suggestions, which we were deliberating over the last two council meetings. And at this point in time, I will say maybe within another council meeting, this new executive will be making a decision on which route to go on that matter. All right. So that is where that situation is stand at this point in time.
Yeah.
Now, for transparency, this is not some money that was received by our member and was tucked away in some account privately. And, myself or somebody else from the executive thought it was a gift to any one of us. It was money received. It was money accounted for legitimately and transparently in the financial statement of the Private Sector Commission. All right. So all our members who have donated money, all our members only who have donated money there, was very much aware of what is happening. So this is no secret. So I don't understand why it's become a big issue in the public domain. It should have gotten there in the first place. But
Yeah.
public consumption right now, you can rest assured the money, the intention with that money is not to spend that money in none other location. The money is intended to be spent within the three communities that was affected in some shape or form that will either benefit the families directly or maybe benefit the villages at large. And that is the deliberation that was taking place.
Yeah.
And we're close to making a decision right now. And the new council will make that decision and publicly notify. Now, the other thing to note also is that when we collect money from our members, as long as we disburse that money for whatever purpose, the Private Sector Commission always will go publicly and recognize and thank every single donor, being members or the public, publicly put their names, the company logo, and say thank you to them. So it is no secret that we collect money. So, like I said, this matter will be put to rest very soon.
Yeah, it's amazing how these people can come up with these dogmatic claims and publish it. Did they ever consult you before writing this article on the funds?
No, they never did. They never did. This is unlike this. I mean, we have seen in the past people got huge funding that belongs to this country and it was put into account and people think it was just a donation. It was just a gift. The private sector didn't operate like that. The private sector come for every single piece
Yeah.
into an audited financial statement.
Mhm. All right. Let's move on to our subject matter proper.
Thank you.
Poverty and unemployment. You have made the headlines when you made some challenges to people who claim that they can't find work. I know you yourself, about a year ago, you sent me a list with your company having 130 vacancies in all categories of employment, from professional to skilled, unskilled, and you're finding grave difficulty in filling those positions. There are other. I met a farmer who was one of the biggest in the area. He had about 10, 12 people working with him. I asked him, I said, how is the farm coming up? I hope you're still doing your extent. He looked at me and smiled. I said, what's happened? He said he had to reduce his scale of operations considerably because he can't get labor to work. Although he paying them well, he can't get labor. I There's another relative of mine who has a big business, and he said he will have labor will come and work for 2 days, then they disappear for the rest of the week, and he got he hauling and he don't know what to do. So he said that he was planning to meet with the Ministry of Home Affairs to get permission to import labor. So everywhere you go, people are telling me, and you are more practical. You create jobs. You know the job market in the private sector. So comment where people are saying that they're questioning your analysis. You are down in the fields. You have the boots on the ground. You're in a better position. We up here, we are really armchair theorists. We are book theorists. We we don't create jobs, but we like to comment with such what's force on dogmatism. So let's hear you on that.
Doc, thank you for the question. I mean, you've been here, you've seen, you might see me in a suit, one and a half, but 90% of the time on the ground, so you have a pretty good understanding what is happening on the ground, both in my companies and other companies. Guyana do have a significant challenge right now. And one of the biggest challenges outside of Venezuela for businesses in this country is access to worker. All right. We talked about a lot of access to funding, but right now access to workers becomes a huge challenge because of what is happening locally here. When I made a statement already, I thought a lot of people had different views on my statement, but my statement is factual. I've actually proven exactly what I said, that within 1 to 6 months, I can bring you out from where you are. And when I talk about poverty, I meant somebody who is telling me at this point in time in Guyana, they cannot put food on the table for their family. They cannot put a proper roof over their head for their family. It's easy to get out of that situation if you're in that situation currently, but you need to be committed to getting to work at some places in Guyana. Guyana currently have huge amounts of opportunity, and we within our company, and I'll speak for our company because I have all the facts. I don't need to do a survey for that. At any one time, I've said this years and years go by, we can employ at least 100 person tomorrow morning. Last year when you met me, I told you we want all of these skilled personnel. As of right now, we have moved away from that skilled personnel because it's difficult to find skilled staff right now. We have moved away from that, and we're saying to the public right now, we're willing to take on anybody who have zero experience and zero knowledge. You just need to be willing to work. You need to have the right work attitude and committed to your work. So we moved away because it's difficult to find skilled workers right now. We're willing right now to employ people and train them. We have actually on all our areas, on the marine front, on the construction front, on the operator front, we have continuous training program going on right now. So if we bring on a brand new person tomorrow morning, within a week, depends on where they want to be in the organization, we start training them. And I'm not alone. Many of the other companies in Guyana are doing exactly the same. Our challenge is that after we would have trained all these people and spent time and money, as soon as they get on board and they learn to do something, they jump ship. They go on to somebody else and try to negotiate higher pay, and they're gone. Now you would have lost all the time and money and have to start training all over again. Now that becomes a challenge for us and many companies, but it's a continuous process, and we're happy that our employees can earn more money and live a better life in Guyana. But labor shortage is a true challenge right now, and that is why many companies have to resort. If we can't find workers locally, then we'll have to resort to employing either people from the Venezuelans that are in Guyana, or we have to resort to bringing in people into our country. But the rate at which we're growing right now, we definitely need to fix our labor problem. The small amount of people in Guyana who are not working, we really asking them to get on board, and let's establish exactly how many more people we need to bring into our labor market to fill the gap.
Thank you, Dr. Ganga. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Komal Singh. I must first commend you on the help desk that you set up to help small businesses and also the trade desk. I just want to make a quick comment on that with regard to the trade desk. I had visited Brazil, Argentina, and Chile in order to advise students over in the US in terms of engaging in international trade and other businesses related. The concern with the help desk is I wondered if there was UG participation in your initiatives. I think that would be very helpful. So later you can comment on UG's participation
No,
regarding the yeah you pardon yeah,
no,
go
go ahead, Doc. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, then next I will deal with the labor supply issues, and I've observed some data which needs to be reconciled and made even so that the signals in the labor market are clear. So there are two related issues there I will raise. Do you want to make a quick comment on the UG's participation in the access to funds through the help desk?
So to answer your question specifically, and that's what I said before, the help desk that we have is open to the public. So if University of Guyana have students who want to think into business direction, they're also free to come to that help desk and try to get information as it relates to how to start a business, access funding, and stuff like that. So it is open for them also.
Oh, that's very good. So they could probably start with building export directories. My first grant was to go to India and create such a directory, but one of the administrators from Washington denied my visa, and on the day of departure, that's when he sent back my passport and everything. But within a month, I think PM Modi, who was in campaign mode, he was instrumental because we wrote to him. He was instrumental in giving 75 days, no questions asked, for qualified countries to go to India. So these issues are interconnected. Now, regarding the labor supply, I've looked at the minimum wage in the public sector, the private sector, and also the private sector accounting clerk salary, and what the World Bank's thoughts are on the minimum wage. So there were five numbers that popped up. Uh, Public sector 86 at about 86,000. I'm rounding these 86,000. Private sector 60,000. The 100,000, which is President Ali's initiatives. He promised that by the end of 2025, the minimum wage would be set for the public sector at 100,000. And then the accounting clerk, he gets 95,000 per, and these are monthly salaries. And then the World Bank came up with a number that suggests the livable wage should be no less than 150,000. So this brings us to uh, a very delicate balancing question. Should the workers stay at home or go to work? And what would be, in your opinion, be an adequate wage for such a person making that decision?
So Doc, I can actually discuss. I can ask you back a question in retrospect here also, but I'll answer you first before I ask you that. In Guyana currently, while they may have those there might be a minimum rate in the private sector, nobody works for that money. And if anybody is working for that money and have an issue with that money, the good news is that there's an opportunity right next door that will pay you double that money. Most the private So we need to distinguish between the private sector here. Those wages and salaries that you're referring to there are money that paid based on most of these small stores and businesses around the country. Those are the small SMEs. But outside of that, the construction industry, the minimum wage on construction industry for a guy who have zero knowledge per month, all right, is comfortable over 150,000 minimum. For a guy who come to work with zero knowledge, for a carpenter or a mason, he works a minimum of 10,000 US. That's $50 per day, minimum. A welder works for a minimum of about $60 to $75 per day, US dollars per day, right? Now, when you look at the demand and what is happening in those sectors, those information that you have there, nobody should, if they're not comfortable, they can't live on $60,000. The good news in this country, you can leave that. 10 years ago or 5 years ago, you had to worry because if you left that job, there's nothing for you to go to. The good news here that if you leave a $60,000 job today, you can go there tomorrow morning and earn $100,000+. Same individual who's earning $60,000 in one of these stores that is paying them that small money. The problem here is that we're not adaptable. We're not willing to make changes, some people. But if we go to New York tomorrow morning, the livable wage in New York is not your minimum wage that is being paid. A lot of these same people who just go into that environment will end up working 2 jobs to satisfy that livable wage in New York and other parts of the world. Guyana is growing rapidly right now. Yes, because of all the outside forces, the outside influence that is coming in to help develop, demand and supply will kick in, and the market force will take the lead. And in many cases, if the demand is higher, obviously those costs will go up. Our people have an opportunity to benefit from those increasing wages and salaries. But we can't sit down and want to relax in an environment that is paying $60,000 a day and complain. When right next door, you can leave that job and go out there and work a solid 8-hour day and earn double the money. We need to have a cultural change a little bit in terms of how we approach work. Our lifestyle in this country is improving day by day. Many Guyanese are seeing a lifestyle change. While some people may not want to accept that publicly, I am saying publicly, and there's many evidence to show that. When you look at the borrowings at the bank, the borrowing that increased at the bank, most of those borrowings are from small businesses. That means the ordinary one at the bottom is having more disposable income. The car population increased significantly. People are having more disposable income to buy those stuff. People are building in this country. It means they're having more disposable income. In this country, in the past, we never had shift work. I have a company right now. Most of the employees in a company earn in excess of $1,500 per month, right? And it goes as high as maybe $11,000 per month. Those guys work shift. They work 7 days for 12 hours during the day. They work 7 days at night, and they stay home for 7 days. Now, those guys, when they stay home for 7 days, they're not staying home. They're going out looking for other part-time jobs to work at least 3 or 4 days to earn more money. So we need to get into that environment and that attitude of going after work, trying to build ourselves while the opportunities are out there. So, like I said again, nobody pays low wages. If you try to get a cleaner in your house, they'll come to you and work for $25 for about 2 hours. $25 for 2 hours for a cleaner, right? So when you look at all of those and you take it in consideration, you recognize that there's opportunity to increase your earning power, but you must be willing to move from your comfort area and get into another environment that pays more money.
All right,
Dr.
Ganga,
Tara,
Dr. Ganga,
before you-
hold your question. We follow up. We need to take a break now.
Oh,
yes, we do.
Okay, go ahead, Shamisa.
We'll be right back after these messages. we're back. Dr. Tara,
Oh,
please go ahead.
okay, Dr. Ganga, continue.
Yes, okay, it's quite interesting. You mentioned jobs that paid 10,000. I think you started with 8,000 and then 10,000 and 15,000 US per month.
No, no,
Can
doc.
you can
No,
you
doc.
elaborate
Those are
further?
Guyana dollars I quoted here, and I convert to US. Those are Guyana dollar.
Oh, well, what would be the monthly in the US? You have that quickly?
Most people will earn in excess of 150,000 Guyana dollar, which is about 700,000, 700 US dollars minimum.
Okay, okay, I got that. So this is consistent with President Ali's statement. I read that somewhere that by end of 2025, public sector minimum wage will go to 100,000. Is that? Can you comment on that? That's true or false?
Well, that's the president make that announcement, and I think he's committed to make sure that public servants salary the minimum is 100. My numbers that I was giving you there right now was for what is happening around in the private sector, in the construction industry, in the marine industry, in the agriculture, mining, etc.
Okay, that's commendable. Thank you for that information. Somewhere else, I read that the 13 in 2017, maybe you can update this. In 2017, 13.3% of Guyana's population lived below the international poverty line of $1,400, $1,400 per month per day. 685 US translated to about 14 and 28 per day, and 13.3% of the population lived below that $6.85. Can you comment on that, please?
So that's what which year report you're saying? 2017.
Yeah.
Well, I could say to you, Doc, that's a very outdated report and it's not relevant at this point in time. The situation right now is totally different. Like I said to you earlier, nobody works for $6 US per day. That might be their hourly wage that they might be working for minimum. Nobody in the construction, and let me clarify, because when we talk private sector, it's kind of there's a little misconception. The construction industry, the mining industry, the agriculture sector, all right, none of those sector, the marine sector, none of those sector pays anything less than $6 US per hour, per hour. So when you're going to tell me somebody earning that per day, that's an outdated 2017 report. If you do a true evaluation right now, you will recognize that that's an hourly rate right now for someone that work in those sectors that I just alluded to.
Have you been able to get the updated information from the Statistical Bureau on these matters?
Not at this point in time. We try to get it. We're hoping to achieve that shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
Dr. Tara.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Ganga commented on a point. The World Bank, based on a 2019 report, stated the poverty level in Ghana was 48.4%. That was then. And their basis as the poverty threshold was really $5.50 US per person. So that figure has often been quoted, but that figure no longer, as Mr. Komal Singh just said, it no longer holds. There have been vast improvement in the wage structure, and he referred earlier to disposable income. Between 2019 and 2024, net household disposable income increased by over 174%. And that must not lose sight, and that will lift a lot of people out of poverty. And don't forget, although people might be earning 60,000 a month, if these people have children going to school. If you have 3 children, you'll get how much? 55 by 3, that's another
Each kid.
150. Um, so they have a lot of and we are not counting when the World Bank calculate these things. They are not counting like one-off grants, like the 100,000 given to people. Another 100,000 will be given again later in this year that the government promised. So there are lots of and indirect benefits. If you add that, it will go beyond the So I know this is not to say there are not pockets of poverty in Guyana, and I'll ask our guest here to comment a little on Plastic City, one of the poorest areas in the country. There's a place called Pigeon Island in the east coast of Demerara. There are some pockets, as you know, in your area, like in Wales. There are some really poor neighborhoods down there, plus Georgia, and you have Albaistong and some other areas. I believe in Gay Park in New Amsterdam, there is some really poverty stricken areas. I would like to have your comment on what the government can do to alleviate these pockets of poverty that still exist.
So Doc, good question, and I will give you a live experience that I had. All right, I was doing a project in Georgetown, and the project was close to the riverfront. Right next to the project site, there were 25 families living in shacks. Barely, the building barely standing up. When I started driving the piles, I know all those buildings would have fallen. All right, because of the vibration. I worked with them, and I tried to work with the Central Housing and Planning, who was willing to relocate them. All right, and I was actually paying them to relocate them. Also, I offered them $5,000 to relocate them. All right, and they would have been working with government to work out how they will deal with the land that they were going to get. Do you believe the 25 person who was living there said to me, "Boss, we don't want to move from here. We're comfortable. Just give us the money." So they were attached to the fence, so they had to move off the fence. So they said they're willing to move off from the fence because the fence had to take them down. So they said, "Give us the money and we will move, but we won't move out from here. We'll just shift away from the fence." So I gave them $500,000 each because the project had to go on. The guys weren't willing to move. I give them the 500,000, they move, and then when they finish move off the fence, I give them the extra 500,000 Guyana dollar, which is a total of $5,000 each. And those guys just take that $5,000 knock and went and upgrade their home right in that same area next to the project site that I had, living right in the same environment. I went back there the other day, and they're still living right there. All 25 individuals, and this is a live thing that I experienced. All of these guys, I have a document they signed for the money. All of these guys said, "Boss, we don't want to move. We're very comfortable where we are." So they took the 5,000, they upgraded the facility, they buy some nice furniture and put it inside, and they continue to live right up to today. My point why I made that to you guys and to the viewers is that, and I say it already, within our own willpower, we need to be willing to want to come out and improve our standard of living. I can have all the opportunity around you, but if you're not willing to come out and change it, you will not be able to do it. And I'm saying right now, yes, around our country, in the past, there was a few areas like you just mentioned, things were tough on those people, still tough on them if they still live in there. But over the years, the amount of opportunity that was created in this country and the amount of opportunity that is here as of today, and I'm throwing out a public offer. I could take 100 people tomorrow morning if you're willing to work. Come and I'll pay you. You'll get a decent salary. But people need to come out and just pick up those opportunities. And I would say to our leaders also, all our leaders, political leaders, church leaders, the government create an environment where there is opportunity to develop yourself. All our leaders need to help our people for them and guide them in the path where they can come out and capitalize, get into the job environment and start earning money to develop themselves. We have an obligation to those people. Many of them may not understand how to get it into the business and to the working world. We need to do that, and we need to help them. And that's one of the reasons the private sector went to open up that help desk to help the ordinary person who doesn't understand how to move from where they are to elevate themselves.
Mm. Right. Thank you. Also, many people who are unemployed, they can't gain employment because they're not qualified, especially in the technical vocational area. The government, through the Ministry of Labor Board of Industrial Training, from 2020 to 2024, they trained over 12,000 people in various skills: carpentry, masonry, fabrication, um, computer technology, etc. Over 75% of them have now been gainfully employed.
That's
The
correct.
remaining 25 might either continue their education,
Yes.
their training, or a part may be still unemployed. Now, the Ministry of Education has a program which you are familiar with, known as the Tibet,
Mhm.
and that include the government technical institute, etc. They have trained over 6 to 7,000 graduates again in the same period, and those are people who are potentially going to go into the labor market. I don't know how many of them were employed, but I will imagine a similar proportion, like 75 to 80% of them are employed. So the focus that the private sector commission is putting on training is very, very important, as well as the government, where you're preparing this labor force to meet the labor challenges of the current and future time. If you want to elaborate or make some points on that, I am very much interested in the private sector training program, because the government one is fairly well articulated and advertised, but the private sector, not much is known about your training programs.
So, Doc, I'm happy you raised the training, and I'm very proud of our private sector businesses across this country. Many of them recognize the issue with shortage of access to properly trained workforce. Many of us was affected by losing very experienced worker who was with you for years because they've gone into the oil and gas environment, which obviously pay a very high salary. So it would have attracted those high skilled workers. So what we have done over the years and many private sector, we have actually done a lot, set up a lot of in-house training. So a lot of that in-house training has taken place. Many of our workers, our companies also have been sending our employees to training locally and internationally, right? If you look, there's about 5 or 6 training school locally, private training school, that are offering all sorts of training. Total Tech is one. If you talk to the guys at Total Tech one day, Dr. Lars Mangal, he will tell you the amount of Guyanese people that he's training through his school for Guyanese company. And that is a good classical example to showcase that the private sector is doing their part also to help our people to bring them up to speed, to qualify them, to bring them in line with all the requirements that is required to meet the certain job requirement in the industry. So private sector is doing their part in a very big way also. And I must commend government. Government have spent quite a bit of money. And I know through the Government Technical Training Institute, when they're bringing out these guys, you hear they have 25, 30 people coming out. By the time you reach out to them, they're gone. Somebody booked them up way ahead of time. All right.
Yeah, we have the Subraj Foundation, who made a significant donation to the Government Technical Institute in Georgetown recently. So they are contributing a lot. They have built computer labs with the police and other areas in Guyana. Um, Before I pass on back to Dr. Ganga, I want to ask you a question which is related to the whole idea of unemployment. Is would you favor the payment for specific periods, say like 3 months or a 4 months, 5 months for unemployment benefit?
I prefer to take that money and train them and bring them into the working environment
Hmm.
rather than giving out hands out. Hands out, in my view, it is good sometimes if people are really desperate for short term, but for sustainable income, I would not go to that route. I
So
prefer to
you won't
train
favor
them.
unemployment insurance for workers.
No, 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 no. If you're working, obviously yes, insurance. But for unemployment insurance,
I'm not
yes.
talking about that. If you're working and then subsequently you get laid off for a specified period of 3 months, if you favor paying them a reduced rate for the 3 months until they can find another job.
Well, that's going to be something on an individual company basis, but with people suffering for shortage of worker right now, nobody's getting
Yeah,
laid
yeah.
off easily right now.
Right now, that's not
That's no,
okay.
no, no.
Okay,
That conversation will not hold. Everybody's looking. As soon as you find somebody who don't have a job, they'll take them on right away.
okay, all right. Dr. Ganga, over to you.
Yes, our discussion so far underlies the need for statistics from the Statistical Bureau. For example, we need to know exactly what youth unemployment is. What's the number? That's how we can address the problem if we knew. In 2021, it was 29, nearly 30%. And the skill mismatches, Mr. Singh has addressed that through the initiatives of the private sector, which should include government technical institute. So that's being addressed, but we don't have numbers to showcase our accomplishment in these areas. Then you have those in the workforce between the ages of 15 to 64. How many people are there? And then the how many are adults, how many are youths, and then the older workers over 55. Can you comment on the initiatives that would address youth unemployment?
Okay, let me just interject here. Dr. Ganga, I believe either the World Bank or IMF put the unemployment, youth unemployment at 25% in 2022. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean the number that you quote there, Doc, that's a 2022 information. But like I said, right now, um, without the stats, obviously, you will not be able to accurately make a determination and pronounce on a percentage. But we can speak right now based on what we're seeing in the workplace environment and all of them. The mining industry also suffers a lot from that right now. So, from a youth employment standpoint, I think the number from 2022 to now would have significantly reduced. Significantly. If there's any youth unemployment right now, you might have a very small percentage. But like I said, I don't want to pronounce on a percentage unless we get those data from Ministry of Labor or from the Stat Bureau. I know they're currently working on something. As soon as the information is available, obviously, we will be able to
I,
comment if it's accurate based on our information
I,
or not.
probably you can say this to I believe the last labor survey was done in Guyana in either 2017 or 2019. Since then, there has been no further labor study, but I understand there is some consultant working at the Ministry of Labor who's trying to develop, in conjunction with ILO, a labor survey. I know ILO has something which they are being guided by, but I don't know how modern or recent is that the guidelines which are set out for labor for now and in the future.
That's correct, Doc. The information is the same that you just alluded to. Um, Ministry of Labor is working on that. I think they have a consultant, like you just said. So that's why I said the information will be forthcoming as soon as that study is completed. Right? We have met with Minister of Labor early this year or last year also, and he did indicate to us, he's working on that data.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. The point that Dr. Ganga is raising is very important. We
Oh
need
yes.
data
Oh yeah.
because data will guide policy and it gives you a good measure of evaluation, the effectiveness, outcome. It's good to
Yes.
talk about process and opportunity, but it will be better if we can also talk about outcome. If the outcome is positive, we can invest all the money in training. If the outcome is not productive, we got to question whether our investment is really worth it.
Oh, that's true. The data will guide you to a path of a more scientific approach on how you fix the issue.
Mhm.
All right, and that is why it's very important. The market is changing so rapidly right now.
Mhm.
Accessing that data is very critical for decision making.
In a moment, I know I once we had a minister of labor here, and he suggested based on qualitative, not quantitative evidence, that the unemployment figure in Ghana might very well be in the single digits now. I mean, the World Bank had it, the IMF had it at 12.4 or 5%, but I think it's much lower than that. Well, what are your views on that?
My like I said, my view could be in that same single digit also.
Mm. Would you say it's in single digits?
Single digits, yes, yes,
Yeah.
single
Mhm.
digit.
And
Uh,
what about?
Most of that will comprise of single parents who maybe need to stay home to take care of the kids, um, people with disabilities,
Mhm.
some people who might be doing just part time and small jobs here and there, and that is why it will definitely be within that single limit area.
What about poverty? Do you think that poverty is in single digit now, qualitative, based on your qualitative analysis?
It will be in the single digit, but like I've always said, and I will continue to say, and I know people are going to come after me on this. Nobody should be in poverty right here in Guyana, right? You can bring yourself out of poverty, and that's why I've challenged people. I have brought within my company many people who couldn't put bread on the table. Now they're feeding themselves. They have a proper roof over their head. It might be a renting house. They've applied for house lot. They own a own car. All right. I could bring about 10, 15 people publicly to speak about that, right? Just they just need to bring themselves out. I agree, a couple years ago that may have been so, but for that small percentage of people around our country who are out there struggling to survive, there is hope for you. There is opportunity out here. Just come out into your environment and reach out to businesses right around you. You will see how much difference you can make with your own life.
Mhm. All right, thank you. Dr. Gangi, your last comment before we close.
yeah, that's quite optimistic. I commend Komal for outlining it like that. But somewhere I read about vulnerable employment with males and females, and in the case of women, it's 27%, and men is lower, 25%. So I'm interpreting this vulnerable employment to mean part-time job opportunities versus full-time opportunities. Can you comment on that, please?
Well, it's difficult for me to comment on vulnerable unemployment. Not sure exactly when the person make that statement exactly what they're trying to say. Right.
I thought they were referring to full-time versus part-time work. I don't know, but that's something to keep in mind if the job is permanent. Also, they were saying that female unemployment was 12% in 2023 and male 9%. Is that considered low or high? I know we talked about single digits, which is optimistic, and that's good. But this 2023 number of unemployment 12%. What do you think about that?
Well, like you said, you will find unemployment. Some people will be unemployed. Most of those poor person might be single parent, and most of the single parents obviously will be female. All right, so that number can be a little different because of that situation. All right, and it is for that reason we have seen government trying to roll out different programs, the part-time program, building shade houses in all the communities around the country. I know President Ali mentioned it already that he's going to put a number of shade houses across the country, and those shade houses, these single parents now will have an opportunity to come together right within their village, go and spend a couple of hours, and they will become, an income earner in their home, right? But they can still be at home most of the day. Right. So these are some of the small initiatives that can be taken to help bring our people into the working force.
Okay, thank you, Shamiza. Um,
Thank,
Over to
thank you,
you.
Dr. Tara. Mr. Singh, before we go to the comments, can you uh, tell us your opinion on the election since we didn't have a chance to touch on it
Oh
to
yeah,
go into questioning?
very important. Well, I think we all saw President Ali, announce September 1 as the date for national, general, and regional election. Um, we from the private sector and business community, we have one ask of all the political parties. We want to make sure that our election is peaceful, and we can revert back to work within the shortest possible time. We also want to make sure that all our people goes out, make sure your names are on the list, and you can go on the day of election and vote for a party that you want to be your leader. We should all respect one another's political preferences, all right? But we should go out there and make sure we vote. Don't stay home. Your vote means a lot to your future and to your family future. I will say, from a general election standpoint, right now, we have met in the past and constantly the private sector. We have also met all the political parties and to try to understand some of their issues and challenges leading into 2025 election. We're confident right now, based on all the information that we receive and the with GCOM, that GCOM was pretty much ready for election. Our electoral process in this country is one very robust. I've never looked at it in very detail like what I did recently. All right. It's a very, very tight system. It's very difficult for you to breach that system on election day. So as long everybody is vigilant and remain on site and each political party have their representative there, I think we will have a very transparent election and GCOM will be able to deliver a free, transparent election and one that I think at the end of the day, we will have a quick turnaround in terms of the result. We don't want to go back to where we were in 2020. 2020 have really driven our economy downwards and none of our businesses right now want that. And for that reason, we continuously reach out to all the political leaders to make sure that we are all on the same page because at the end of the day, when the dust is settled, it's the private sector that will need to drive the economy. And if we kill the private sector just because of election, then we'll have to rebuild back a whole economy from ground zero. So I think right now the country is prepared for election. Our people in Guyana and businesses, we're all looking forward to September 1 and have a quick turnaround so we can go back to business as usual.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but Mr. Jailal is asking any comment on the completion schedules for the Demerara Bridge and the Gas to Shore project?
Well, I will not be able to comment on that properly. I can only comment maybe on a piece that we have done on the pipeline. The Peace Pipeline project we have done on shore, that's completed. The overall project completion date, I'll refer that back to government because they have all the facts and the details behind that. And I think from time to time, Vice President will comment on that in his weekly updates when asked on it. But at this point in time, I think if I will comment on the progress of the project, I'll say on the bridge, we're very excited for the speed of which the bridge project is going on with. From a construction background, I'll say the bridge project is way ahead of time from a construction standpoint, given the high level and technical nature of that construction. The work is going pretty fast in our view. And I think, based on our collection, I mean, the bridge will be able to touch one another within a time. Right. The gas energy project also. So I know the project was moving at a rapid pace. We all know that they have some issues going on right now between the contractor, and I guess as soon as that issue is resolved, we will see the speed again moving back on that project.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Singh, based on what you said tonight, it seems as if though the people who are living under the poverty guidelines of Guyana, it's by choice. After listening to what you said tonight and listening to many others on the program, because there are opportunities, they're just not. And you also mentioned that we're looking to our leaders to help guide people into those directions. Now, has the private sector done any research or anything in regards to what can motivate the people to come out into the workforce? Is it better pay, wages? Are they looking at the skill set? What exactly, or was there any research done to conform or to figure out what will motivate our people to come into the workforce?
We have not done any research to determine exactly what needs to motivate those people. But having lived in this country and having seen many of these society and communities and having have so many people pass through our business, and many other companies will say the same. We recognize that, there's a lot of our people in this country who did not have the opportunity of growing up with two parents in their home. So the parental guidance, that was supposed to be there from two parents, maybe one parent had to struggle to grow up two, three kids. Those kids were actually not given the full opportunity to understand how to move themselves forward and develop themselves into society. And that is why I said to you earlier that we as leaders have an obligation to those people to help them bring them out of where they are. And I could give you back another example. In about three community right around Georgetown, we have given a small ransom and some mold for them to build blocks 2 years ago. And when I gave it to two sets of boys in some of the same depressed community you were alluding to, it was just with three or four of those guys. I went back recently and you see those guys now employ almost 10, 12 people. The yard is filled with blocks. Now, if they didn't get that push and that coach and that counsel, they may have still been part of the guys who sit on the street corner, still thinking where the next bread will come from. So we as community leaders need to help those persons who are sitting on the sideline, trying to understand how they can get involved and how they can participate in the development and at the same time elevating their own lifestyle.
Thank you very much. Well said. I will now ask you for your closing remarks.
Okay, so Dr. Ganga, Dr. Tara, and Shamiza, thank you very much once again for having me on this program. And to our viewers, let's focus on developing ourselves. Let's focus on developing our family. We in Guyana right now have an opportunity of a lifetime. Let's don't mingle it between politics and bring everything into politics. Politics have its own role and its own corner. As an individual, you have an opportunity to develop yourself and to grow yourself for the betterment of your entire family. Don't sit down on the side. If you don't understand how to get involved in the business world, into the working environment and to the working force, talk to your neighbor, talk to somebody, talk to your leader within your community. I'm sure they'll be willing to help you and guide you on where to go. And if you have an issue, just drop me a text in my inbox. I've seen thousands of that over the last week, and I've responded to each one of them. Just drop me a text, and I'll guide you, and I will send you and put you onto somebody who might be able to help you in some shape or form. Thank you.
All
Well,
right, um,
thank you so much, Dr. Tara.
just give me a sec. Thank you very much, Mr. Komal. I mean, your action is your motivation, everything that you have done. You're leading, as I said, by example, and you're a leader that others should really imitate. You have done tremendous work. We didn't even talk about your contribution to charitable causes, etc. Your humanitarian impulse is so strong. You combine that. So that's very wonderful. And thank you very much for the excellent presentation tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Ganga. Dr. Shamiza, you close the program now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tara. And
But
to our
don't go
guest,
off.
Mr. Singh, thank you for being here. Thank you for
Thank
taking
you.
the time to be here. And to the people of Guyana, we do want to wish you, I know it has passed, but I do want to wish you, on behalf of the Guyana Dialogue, we want to wish you a happy 59th independence. Until next time, and to our viewers, of course, thank you for taking the time to be here. Until next time, I am your host, Shamiza Ali, and this is the Guyana Dialogue. Good evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Don't go off. We